And we are about to go live. That's right. It's the It's 420 Somewhere podcast, guys. We're counting down to 420, but we got a special one for you today. We're going off the rails a little bit, guys. We have the premiere episode. It's streaming here on the dailydank.com YouTube first for all you Dank World Order members, guys. This is the premiere episode. It has its own channel. It's going to be its own entity. This is the Elevated Prospective Podcast, and we have an amazing tarot card reader today, guys. Sarah Tye in the house, guys. She gives us a live reading. It's going to be crazy. It is Paranormal Tuesday. We're going to get into all the things, guys. You want to stick around for this? It's once in a lifetime. That's right. Let's get into it, guys. We'll go live in 2.
Get set, because it's time to go with the It's 420 Somewhere podcast. With your host with the most, the man voted most likely to smoke out with a Yeti, Mr. Brian Brown. Mr. Brian Brown. Now sit back and relax, because it's time to go live across the world. Because it's 420 Somewhere.
And boom, we are live. How is everyone doing today, guys? It is Paranormal Tuesday on the It's 420 Countdown show, guys. It's 420 Somewhere Countdown show. Oh, man, we got a good one in store for you guys. In case you don't know what this is, you're just stumbling into this. Hey, I just like psychic stuff. What's going on? You've stumbled into the hottest, the craziest, the wildest, the wackiest 420 Countdown show of all time, guys. We count down every day, Monday through Friday, to 420, the greatest time of all time, guys. And we get into a whole mess of trouble in the meantime. We're talking Movie Monday. We just did, Godzilla X Kong. We did an elevated film review. We got into the nitty gritty. Is it the summer blockbuster popcorn movie you deserve? Check out that review and find out, guys. And today, Paranormal Tuesday, guys. Normally, we get deep into conspiracies. We get deep into cryptids. We get deep into all the craziness of paranormal and conspiracies. Today, we're switching it up a little bit, guys. We have a special guest, Sarah Tye, tarot card reader extraordinaire, guys. Not the typical what you're thinking. She has a great business plan. We'll talk more about that after 420, guys. We'll get into it, but you're going to be really interested how this turns off. She does a live reading, and this is the very first episode of the Elevated Perspective Podcast, guys. I'm going to get into my vision, what I think this podcast should be. It has its own channel, guys. We're just debuting it here. If you enjoy it, please jump over. The link is down in the description below. The Elevated Perspective Podcast. We're going to be dropping them on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, guys. I'm going to try to do Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, but this one's rolling for Tuesday. So yeah, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays is what I would like to. And we got plenty in the bank, guys. We got all sorts of actors. We'll get into that more, guys. You know what? We got about 4 minutes before 420. So let's talk weed. Let's talk the good stuff, guys. We'll get into the Elevated Perspective Podcast momentarily, guys. But what's everyone getting into today? It is Paranormal Tuesday. I'm excited, guys. A lot of stuff going on in the weed industry, in the world going out there, guys. A lot of legalization, a lot of marijuana law modifications, just a lot of different stuff, guys. Don't punish marijuana workers in bankruptcy proceedings. I guess that's a advocacy group. That should be a good advocacy. I don't know. You know, the bummer with that is it just stays in your system so damn long that you know what I mean? Like, what do you really do? I was looking at the Florida law. DeSantis is he's saying voters are going to reject it, that it's pretty radical. I don't know, those first couple, like in California, the first one didn't pass. Arizona, the first one didn't pass. I believe in Nevada, the first one didn't pass. There's a lot of fat on those bills that they have to trim up. But, you know, I don't know. We'll see. Usually the second round. Arizona marijuana sales surpassed 1.4 billion in 2023, with a bulk of transactions coming from adult use buyers. Well, I hope. I hope they're adults. If it's legal, recreation sales amounted for more than 76% of the total increase from the 70% sales it represented in 2022. In 2021, the first adult use recreation sales were legal. They were just 45% of the total. But you know, a lot of people jump on like a little later on. I know a lot of snowbirds, a lot of retirees who wouldn't touch it when it was illegal. Second it became legal, they're 4:45 in the morning. They're at the dispensary waiting. Arizona cannabis sales totaled more than 1.4 billion for the third consecutive year in 2023, as medical sales continued to tank and recreational buyers made an overwhelming share of the sales. Yeah, I don't know. No one's buying rec anymore, are they? Or, I mean, no one's buying medical. I mean, you could buy more, but I mean, like, you're jumping through hoops. Like, you're just like, if you want to buy 7 ounces, okay. You know, I don't think you're getting any deals that you weren't really getting before. Maybe a little bit extra at the dispensary, but I don't know. Is it worth it? If you're traveling, definitely worth it. If you're traveling state lines and you're not sure if it's legal, always nice to have that medical card, even if it's not valid in another state. You kind of can make an argument. I didn't know. Ignorance. Who remembers George Costanza having an affair with the maid at his office, and they were like just right on the desk, and they confronted him about it, his boss, and he was like, well, if I would have thought that was frowned upon, I wouldn't have done it. I love George Costanza. He's the best, guys. He's the best. All right, guys, we got about a minute before 420 is dropping, guys. I'm getting into some Blue Dream. That's right. Dream. Some Blue Dream from Smokeland, guys. This is some pretty fire stuff. I smoked it, so I don't have it right here in front of me. Well, that's what I'm getting into on this 420. What are you getting into, guys? blow up those comments. Let me know. I like this Blue Dream, man. It's about 32%. I can only get it, or not only, but you can find it at 1400 Needles Highway, Needles, California. The #1 cannabis superstore, the Healing Center, right across the bridge. The first thing you're gonna see. That's right, guys. All right, guys. We got about 60 seconds before 420. Actually, about 40 before 420, guys. So I need you to blow up those comments. What are you getting into? Even if you're not smoking weed, even if you're just drinking on something, eating on something. 420 is a relaxed state of the mind, guys. It's like a moment of silence. Remember back in the day in school, they wouldn't call it the prayer. It's a moment of silence. Put your head on your desk and do whatever you do. And you could reflect. I think it was like 60 seconds. That's what 420 is, guys. You know, you're burned out. You've been working for the man all day. You got your boss smelling like garlic, breathing on you like, give me more productivity. And all the garlic oozing out of his freaking skin. And all you can smell is onions and garlic and his onion breath and his olives all over you. You need a break. You need 420, whether you smoke or you don't, guys. I want you to clear that mind. Inhale that positivity, exhale that negativity. You've almost made it through the day. It is 420. And boom, how was your 420, guys? Mine was fire. Mine was fire. All right, guys, I'm going to get into this. The first ever episode of the Elevated Perspective Podcast, guys. I'm excited. We got a wonderful, wonderful guest, master tarot card reader, business plan. It's something, it's about business. Helps people get on the right track, more so than making psychic predictions. Help you get mind, body, and soul. We're going to get into it. Amazing, amazing lady. Was an honor to have her on the podcast, guys. And I want to talk about the Elevated Perspective Podcast before we get into this. My vision for this podcast is basically I'm a middle-aged white guy that grew up in rural America. There's a lot of stuff I haven't experienced, a lot of stuff I don't know about, a lot of stuff I can be ignorant about. I'll be the first one to admit it. I'm ignorant about certain things, certain cultures, certain ways of life. And I don't want to be that way. I want to open those doors, and I don't want to be afraid of things I don't know. I want to welcome them in. I want to learn about them, and I want to narrow that divide. And that's what I want all of us to do, guys. And that's the whole point of this Elevated Perspective Podcast. We're having everyone on here, guys. Everyone from doctors, lawyers, trans. We got trans people. We're going to walk a mile in their moccasins, as they say, guys. We got Native American, a great lady, a Native American lady. We got a ton of guests lined up, guys. I'm already in the can as they speak. But yeah, that's my vision for this, guys. My vision, it's going to be a standalone. It has its own channel. We'll drop them over here every once in a while if it's a great episode. But yeah, guys, I really think this is going to be something special. We get deep down. We talk. It's a true interview. We talk the hard hitting questions. We get into all the cool things, guys. And I pick this. I'm going to be honest with you guys. My name is Brian from the Daily Dank, and this is the Elevated Prospective Podcast. I didn't even get into that part yet, guys. If it's your first time watching, I appreciate it. And that's basically what this is, guys. A walking a mile in someone else's moccasins, as they say, guys. You're gonna live in fear of the things you don't know. And again, I'm a white guy, middle-aged white guy that grew up in rural America. I haven't seen too much of the world. I've seen enough. For now, I want to see a lot more. But there's a lot of cultures, a lot of different things I don't know about. I'm ignorant, and I want to expand my mind. And that's what this podcast is all about, guys. Nothing's off limits. We really get down. We want to learn about the people, what they got going on. We have people from all walks of life, guys, and I hope you enjoy it. Today, we got a very special one. And the reason I picked this one first, guys, and I'm going to tell you, I've been doing this probably about a year and a half, doing these interviews, and I've sat on most of them. It's anxiety. I don't know what it is. I have not been able to get the courage to show you guys these podcasts, and I don't know why. And I had the conversation with her on this podcast, and you guys will find out. And I'm not no spoilers, but man, I wanted to start with this one. We filmed this back in November, late November, early December, and I want to apologize that it has taken this long to air. Again, it's my anxiety. It's all on me. I don't want to pass the buck on anyone. It's all on me, guys. But I think you're going to enjoy these. I think there's a reason why I sat on them and why I think it had needed time to marinate. I think everything happens for a reason. And when you watch this podcast, guys, I think you're going to find out what I'm talking about. Stay tuned, guys. This is going to be a really good one. We're going to get into it. The first ever episode of the Elevated Perspective Podcast. Let's do this thing, guys.
There is a world. There is a world. And in that world, there are people. People. And those people know things you do not. Never fear. Brian Brown is here to get down to the dirty and gather knowledge from all walks of life to help us all grow and be better in this racket we call life. Now get those thinking caps on, because it's time to BS with BB.
5, 4, 3, 2, and hey, what's up, guys? It's Brian, and we are back with an exciting Elevated Perspective podcast, guys. We're always talking about the supernatural, the other side of things, the future, all the different things are out there, guys. And we dive deep in Paranormal Tuesdays and we talk all those things. And I thought, why we actually an opportunity, maybe fate, maybe the universe opened this door. This young lady's name came across the desk about being on the show, and I could not pass it up, guys. I'm super excited. We haven't talked about tarot a lot on this podcast. We've talked about other stuff, and it's something that I've had readings done before, and something that I think is super great. But this young lady's technique and kind of vision of it is different, and we're going to get into all that, guys. And I think you're going to learn a couple things. I hope I will. And we're just going to have a good time overall. So, guys, please give it up for the wise and mighty Sarah Tye. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I know my intros can be a little over the top and great at times, but I love giving people their due, and I'm excited about this experience and getting to kind of know your journey. What started you down this path to get you? Was there one kind of incident, or was it something that you've always kind of felt drawn to?
So it was something that I was drawn to in high school. That's actually when I started. I was really on the younger side. I grew up very Christian. And so right around my teen years was when I just started to ask questions and look out beyond what I had already learned. And tarot was just kind of at the time entertainment and fun and mysterious. So when I first jumped into it, it wasn't something that like I saw as medicine or what I see it as today. But it
Yeah.
was definitely like my first time dipping the toe in and seeing, well, what is this? And I was always fascinated by the symbology and what it could do. Um, but yeah, that was kind of the beginning of it. And then it was really about 6, 7 years ago that I started realizing that tarot was actually so much more than what I thought it was, which at the time was more entertainment and mysterious. And then I realized that there's some real medicinal value to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you kind of touch on that aspect? Because you kind of be in like, I know a little bit about it, probably like the average Joe. Like I've had some readings on, but the medicinal side of it. Can you kind of get into that a little more?
Yeah, absolutely. So tarot is a really great tool for self-discovery and really retrospection. And what I use it for, so I'm not a fortune teller. Most people think of tarot and they immediately think I'm some kind of a fortune teller. And I don't focus on the future. I personally believe the future is always changing, so I don't think it's set in stone. And I think it's a value to focus on the future when we can focus on something that's tangible, which is in the now. And so
Yeah.
that's really where I like to focus is what can you learn and do right now to help you get to the future that you want. And so tarot is usually it's a beautiful tool to help you figure out what it is that's blocking you now, what kind of things you need to heal, what is it that you need to be focusing your energy on. And it's also a sense of surrender because I don't believe that it's the cards that are magic. I don't believe that it's me. I
Yeah.
think that it's spirit or higher power that's showing up for the clients I'm sitting with. And I'm just the middleman interpreter. So it's a combination of you get to learn more about yourself, and it's also kind of realizing that there's something bigger than yourself that's also guiding you as well.
Yeah, I really like what you said about like the future aspect of it because I have many years ago got caught up in that. You going through a rough time and you just want to know what's going to happen. And I almost think it doesn't because you want it so bad. And like you said, everything's changing. And I really like the way you worded that. That's definitely something with tarot that yeah, like you nailed it right on the head. Being someone who got stuck in that pattern too. Um, so,
Yeah, I think it can be.
oh, sorry.
Sorry. I was just saying, I think it can be easy to get caught up in worrying about the future. And most people who do, it's because it's really from a fear-based place of I want security. And that's something that we can actually absolutely foster now. So.
Yeah, no, that I really like that perspective. So what are some of the challenges that you come up like? I kind of saw that you like the medicinal and like you kind of took tarot to a more personal level. What are some of the challenges that you come across like trying to expand out and that kind of stuff and trying to learn as much as you can and are you is spirit kind of I'm trying to think like your spirit's using the cards to lead you and then you're going that how are you using it? I'm sorry, I'm all confusing.
So yeah, no, as far as challenges, I mean, a lot of it is more when I first started my business, my biggest fear was judgment. My biggest fear was people misunderstanding what I was here to
Yeah.
do. And that's kind of faded away though. I part of the reason I'm doing these podcast interviews is because I want to share the power of tarot and the positive lights of tarot and it helps shift those perspectives. But I've also learned that just by showing up and doing what I do, I'm already making that difference. So I'm less worried about that challenge now. But it's funny because I'm on top of doing one-on-one sessions and I also do other like email readings, things like that. I also do events where I get hired for like weddings, bachelorette parties, birthday parties, etc. And I'll sit down with guests and with who most people have never had a tarot reading before. And so that's kind of my like way of showing them like, hey, it's not that scary and working through that fear that a lot of people still carry. But when it's offered to them for free, they're usually very much like, oh, well, what is this? And they're curious. And I get to kind of take them by the hand and lead them through it. So that's really how I work through that judgment that I used to be afraid of.
Yeah, I can tell that you're super understanding because the fact that you answered that question the way I asked it, like you understood that, you got some observant powers. I'll tell you that right there. Why do you think that stigma is kind of still around? Do you think it might have been like from the old days where they were cons and that kind of stuff, or do you think we're just not as receptive, or are we becoming more receptive? Kind of, what's your take on that?
I definitely think that it's a lot of the conditioning that we as a society have been given. Tarot definitely has like a dark undertones. So Hollywood does not help with that at all. And I think religion plays a big part in it as well. But I will say that over the last 15 years, really since I've started tarot, I've noticed it's become more accepted. It's definitely, I feel like we as a society are more open to different tools and modalities that weren't really heard of in maybe 10-15 years ago, or were more taboo. So I do feel like there is more expansion. I've heard that therapy will sometimes include tarot cards or oracle cards, so it's definitely becoming more mainstream, and people are realizing that there's more to it than what Hollywood perceived it as. But I think a lot of it was just the combination of religion, and we all believe what we see on the movie screen, and they
Yeah.
definitely portray tarot as creepy taboo thing.
Yeah, curses and all sorts of that kind of stuff. Um, One question I did have is, so if we're not like, so on the readings, if we're not focused on like the future events and the present, how does that kind of work? Is it like kind of exposing, maybe like showing you things that you could embrace more, or doors maybe that you could open, that maybe mental blockages and that kind of stuff?
Basically, yeah. So, I mean, we can always focus on a question. Questions are still absolutely valid. But the focus is more on what you need to know around whatever your question is. And so, what usually comes up, and it depends on which reading I do, which spread that I do, but the one that I usually pull out is my higher self spread. And that's the focus is like, this is your theme. This is your past and where you're coming from. This is your present, what you're dealing with now. This is your future and where you're energetically heading as of right now. And then there's also beyond that, there's tools about like how to get where you want to go and how to get through what you're going through, and being mindful of the different things that are popping up in your life. So it usually happens is, it's so funny because most people who come to me, they come to me with this idea of, tell me something I don't know.
Yeah.
And yet what I end up telling them is something that they actually deeply know. It's the exact opposite, which becomes more confirmation, more validation, because it helps them understand that, a perfect stranger can pick, because it's, again, it doesn't come from me, it comes from spirit. It's that surrender of, these cards are able to hone in exactly on where I'm at, what I'm going through, which tells me A, that I'm not alone, and B, it gives me some tangible skills and tool sets to work through what I'm going through. So that's usually like what the premise is and what comes up around it.
What are some of the things that you just absolutely love about what you do? Like the experiences, and I know privacy and stuff, but there's some of those experiences you might share with us or whatever. Because I know I mean, I can see the passion in your face and how much you love doing this. That's got to be rewarding when, people figure out that self-discovery and that kind of stuff.
So yeah, there's a few. So the biggest thing that I love about what I do is that I really feel like it's helping people. 9 times out of 10, when someone sits down with me for a reading, I really can see and feel the impact of this message really hit home for them. They're taking it with them. It just gave them something that they needed, some kind of clarity, some kind of grounding. And knowing that I was able to facilitate that, even though, again, I don't take credit for the messages, the fact that I was able to show up as that channel for them, that is really what satisfies me and fills me up. And I never, it's so funny because tarot was one of those things I didn't expect myself to do. It was kind of a calling that came to me in the last couple of years. And that was me saying, I said no to it several times as it kept coming up to me. And then I finally said yes to it. But the moment I said yes was when I realized, oh my gosh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So yes, doing what I love and doing what I know is making a difference has been really satisfying and really just a game changer for me. But just one story that does stick with me. That's just kind of shows like what I do. I was at a party. I was hired for a Halloween party, and I always try to keep my readings lighter at parties. Although I don't edit my readings,
Yeah.
it's not my place to change or sugarcoat anything. So I always hope that it's going to be light, but I can't promise what comes through. I had a lady sit with me, and the very first card that came up was the grief card. It was all about working through grief, and there's a lot of really heavy cards in there. But the whole message was that she was dealing with some major grief, and she wasn't moving on with her life, and she was holding her back. And I mean, the moment I started doing her reading, I could tell she was trying to hold it together. And when it was over, she just broke down and said, I just lost my father 6 months ago. And this is exactly what I needed to hear, because I've been stuck. And this reading has helped me realize that I can get unstuck. And not only that, but she almost felt like it was her dad coming through saying, I don't want you to be stuck now that I'm gone. And it was just so profound that these are the kind of messages I facilitate all the time. It's, I mean, not in that same message, but I see that same impact over and over on people that I work with.
Wow. Yeah. That does sound super powerful. Man, and impactful. And I love that, sometimes it is what but the cards are kind of confirming that. Like you said, like, a lot of times, like she said, like she knew she was struggling with that, letting her dad go. And then the cards kind of confirmed it and kind of helped her to that next stage. Definitely beneficial. What are some other beneficial things that tarot brings out?
I'm so sorry. The connection was a little off. Can you
Oh,
rephrase? Can you reset your question?
yeah. No problem. What are some of the benefits of getting these tarot readings? Other than like like the relieving burdens and that kind of stuff. What are some of the other benefits? 'Cause especially like you were saying use it medicinal for different stuff. Yeah. What are some of the other benefits?
I think one of the biggest benefits is that it shines a light. It like gets to the heart of the matter, and it gets to it very quickly. So you might come to a reading feeling lost or with a vague question of what you want, and whether it's that the answer to your question is exactly what you were asking or something you just needed to hear. I've just heard time and time again, it's like spirit is like, okay, I hear you. I hear that you're kind of discombobulated and you got a lot of things going on, but this is what you need to focus on. This is the place that will help you the most right now. This is what you need right now. And so I feel like the biggest benefit that this does is it takes our human brain, which could be all over the place, right? And
Yeah.
it's just because we have so much going on, and we might be putting our energy in different places, just trying to exhaust our options without realizing that there's actually really only one place or just a couple places that really need our attention that would actually make a difference. And it helps. I feel like it just helps you hone in on what it is that is holding you back, or maybe a bad habit or bad situation that you shouldn't be in, but hey, someone actually needs to tell you to make you realize you need to get out of it. It's just, ultimately, I feel like it shines a light on what you most need to know right now.
Almost like a therapy session in certain terms, right? Yeah, I mean,
So I have heard that. I've had many people who sat with me who walked away saying this is like a mini therapy session. But I do want to put a disclaimer on that, because what I do is not therapy.
yeah,
Like I said, I'm interpreter. I'm literally just interpreting the cards and channeling. So this isn't coming from me, but also I feel like what I do is more like it shows you what to take to therapy. It shows you
yeah.
areas that you need to work through with a professional that's that knows how to work through those things. So it's more like it shines a light on what you need to work on and what could be taken to therapy, but it's definitely not a therapy session.
On that note, because you were saying a lot of people, myself included, kind of get confused on what exactly what you do and what exactly. Could you put it in layman's terms for us, so like we just kind of like get it, just get that flat line. We know exactly what it is.
Yeah. So I mean, there's gonna be different interpretations based on different readers, because there are many different readers out there. But my interpretation, the way that I have come to learn how I do what I do, I don't think the cards themselves are magic. I don't think the cards themselves are the thing that is all knowing. I also, like I said, don't take credit for that for myself either. I see it all as intention. So it's whoever comes to sit with me, they're coming with the intention of guidance, of needing clarity, of having a question answered. And I'm showing up with the intention of being that open channel for them and interpreting for them. So I really feel like it's all intention. And also there's that piece of handing over your power to, this higher source, to entrusting that there's a higher source that's going to sit here and guide you through it. So it's a combination of, I think ultimately it's intention and being open to that surrender and knowing that there is something higher and a higher source that's here to help guide as well. So it's that kind of tangible, like I'm here with the intention, but I'm also trusting that there's something bigger than me.
Yeah, no, and that makes total sense, and I like that. And like you said, like I think ultimately, no matter what you look at, like religion, beliefs, whatever, it all pretty much culminates around the higher power and submitting to something out there, whether it's AA, NA, whatever it may be.
Mhm.
That's definitely, I think, the connection all, and I like that that's connected too with this.
Yeah. So with that said, I work with people of all faiths. So there is
Yeah,
no
yeah,
particular faith that is connected to tarot. In fact, many of my clients are Christian, or, it doesn't really matter what their faith is. I think it's just knowing that you have faith, that there is
yeah,
something. And
yeah.
it doesn't matter what the name is, what the religion is. It's knowing that there is a higher power that wants the best for you and trusting that it's there to guide you.
Yeah. Um, so you had said like the stigma before of this. What would you like? So you get someone who believes a certain way. Oh, that's evil. That's evil. We're not supposed to do that. What would be your well? How would you direct them, or how would you like try to convince them otherwise?
I have learned through this journey of being a professional reader that trying to convince someone who is that against it is not
Yeah.
really very productive. Would of course suggest being open-minded enough to sit down and let me pull a couple cards for them, and so they can see that it's not as scary as they think it is. Because
Okay.
when I do, like I said, when I do events, while I get most of the people who sit with me who've never had a reading, I do get people who are scared and tell me that they're afraid it might be evil, but then they are open enough to try it, curious enough to try it, and then they realize it's not what they think it is. So I would encourage someone like that to give it a shot, give it a try. If it, and I would say only if it resonates, because tarot isn't for everyone. So if it's something that you're curious about, but you're afraid of, then I would definitely encourage at least giving it a shot and seeing what it's all about. Um, but it all comes down to having an open mind. I've worked with skeptics too. They're really fun to do readings for, because a lot of, as long as they're open minded, if they're coming and sitting down with me with the intent of this is BS and I'm not going to believe a word you say, then there's again no point in really doing a reading, because they're not going to be open to even connecting the dots on their own end. You know what I mean? But if they're
Yeah.
curious and open, 9 times out of 10, they walk away going, okay, this was not what I thought it was, and I'm impressed. So I think it's just all about being open minded and curious to see what it is, and whether or not it resonates with you.
Yeah. So this one will be a difficult one, and I think you'll say, well, I like them for different reasons. But if you could track down one, what is your favorite kind of reading to do? Because you said you do group events, you do one-on-ones. What are some of like the favorite ones? And I know you'll say that they're all my favorites for different reasons, but which ones do you enjoy doing?
Oh, that is a hard one, because it is exactly what you said, for different reasons.
Yeah.
Because the one-on-one sessions are always so, like, I always those hit home, but I think I love events more, because I feel like at events I'm reaching more people and I'm opening more minds. And in that respect, I really love what events allow me to do. Um, but one-on-one is probably my second favorite.
Is what's the difference in the atmosphere between the two? Is the events a little more laid back, a little more like fun, or maybe the one-on-ones are coming in for certain reasons, certain things? Is there a difference between the two?
Yeah, so parties are definitely more laid back. I mean, like I mentioned, I can't promise that it's going to always be lighthearted things that come through,
Yeah.
but it is more of a laid back environment. And I'm usually like tucked in a room or in a corner, or there's music going usually, so it's definitely more, it's less private, and it's more laid back. One-on-ones, those tend to be really personal and really intimate, just like, because I usually do it through Zoom, or if I have someone that's local, I'll go to them and we'll do it in person, either Zoom or in person. It's just so much more intimate and personal. And I will say, most of the people that come to me through Zoom, through my personal readings, they're there to grow. They're there to, basically be a student of what can I learn from myself and my situation. And so they're usually more understanding of what I do, and they're ready to dive in, versus the parties, they're like still curious and wanting to know, what is this thing? So it's definitely different mindsets too.
Yeah. Do you get at the events those people that just kind of hang in the back for a while? Maybe they circle back a few times and they're talking themselves into it, and then they finally like, all right, let's do this thing.
Oh yeah, I've got people who never come and sit with me, but eye me from afar, and
Yeah.
and I've definitely gotten the people who like were not happy about coming in, but they came in anyway. I have one story of one lady who was at a bridal shower, and she just she didn't look like she wanted to be there. I think it was just like all of the ladies were coming in, so she was one of them, and she just didn't. I mean, there was no. She didn't look impressed. She didn't look like she really wanted to be there. She just said, tell me what I need to know. And I was like, okay, we'll do a higher self spread. And as she just stared at me. There was like no validation that anything was making sense to her. She just sat and watched me do the reading, and which is fine. I get that a lot, but I was especially nervous with her because I just already felt like she didn't believe a word I was saying.
Yeah.
But by the time I was done, she literally just, first thing she said to me was, "You have a gift." And then she told me how everything fit in and why it fit in, and was just like, oh my gosh, so that was really cool, but it was definitely nerve-wracking in the moment because I felt like I was totally off base.
Yeah. Does that throw you at times when they just have that poker face and they're just like, okay, I'm going to absorb what you say and then we'll address it afterwards? Does that kind of throw you a little bit?
It can. So when I say that I'm an open channel, I like to remove my ego, which means I don't like to try and judge what I'm reading. I don't like to try and make it make sense to me, because it's not for me. So it's not my reading to make sense of. So because I remove my ego, I'm putting full trust that higher source is showing up for the person. Every single time I do a reading, I just trust that, okay, what's come through is going to come through, and I'm just here to share the message. That's why I don't edit. That's why I don't sugarcoat. I just share what I see, and I trust that what's coming through is meant to come through. And so when I'm getting someone with a poker face, it is hard because of my own ego and my own judgment, basically doubting myself the entire way through. But I just keep on sharing what I'm seeing, and I just kind of keep going. And every single time I do, I mean, there's only maybe been like once or twice where it didn't resonate with the person. It's a very small percentage that at the end they're like, oh no, that didn't resonate. Most of the time, even though they give me nothing while I read for them,
Yeah.
most of the time by the end, then they share how it's been. And so I've just learned to trust. It's a big trust on my side that source and power is showing up for the person I'm reading for.
You said something in there, and it like this is like a therapy session. I know, disclaimer, guys, but no, imposter syndrome is something I deal with sometimes, and like, it's only going to be a matter of time before they realize I'm not a podcaster, even though I am, and all you have to do is have a podcast to be a podcaster. I don't know, but like, get those fears. But you had said that if you remove the ego out of the situation, that and it just like, you just put that light bulb in my head, and I'm like, maybe that's what I just need to do to fix my imposter syndrome, is like, take the ego out of it and just know, hey, I'm doing good work and things are moving forward. Thank you for that. I know that wasn't intentional, but thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, I think that the ego is important. I mean, like the mind, right? And it plays a role. Its whole purpose is to help us stay safe, which is
Yeah.
great, except for when it holds us back from
Yeah.
what we're, trying to accomplish and be. So I'm glad that I helped give you that perspective.
Oh yeah, totally. And I had to say it because I mean it was such an epiphany when you said that. I was just like, wait a minute, we haven't even done it. On that note, we had talked about maybe getting a live reading or a reading on here.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. I
Um,
would love to. Where can they find you at first before we start this?
So my website is journeythroughtarot.com, and you can find all the readings I offer. I offer email readings, which is perfect if you don't want to interact with me in person. You just ask the question, and then you get a voice recording from me and a picture of the cards drawn. That's probably the most convenient. Or if you want to work with me one-on-one for private sessions, you can find that on my website as well. And then I'm also on Instagram at Journey Through Tarot, and that's like the most interactive I am with my social media. So you can also follow me there, or feel free to reach out to me for questions or anything like that.
And all the links will be down in the description below, guys. So make sure you're hitting that up, checking out the website, and showing some love, guys.
All right. So for your reading, do you have a question in mind?
So I'm kind of we talked about where the Halloween store stuff and where I'm kind of at. Maybe professional kind of look at like maybe like what I could be doing better to kind of enhance what I'm doing with the podcast and the videos and everything.
Okay. Yeah. So we can focus on what you need to know around your professional and your podcast side. So absolutely.
Appreciate that.
And have you ever had a tarot reading before, or is this going to be a first for you?
I've had like two, but none in many many years.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So it's going to be kind of like a new experience.
Yeah, definitely. And mine were like on the boardwalk in Atlantic City a long time ago, and like in a more of a rushed environment than a.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is going to be very different.
Yeah.
All right. So this is my um there's 7 cards I'm going to go over. The first one is the theme. Then we're going to go over past, present, future energies, and then higher self messages. Which the higher self messages is more of that roadmap I was telling you about. And then the rest of it's kind of like, this is where you're at right now. And then the rest will be the roadmap. So starting with your theme card. And by the way, if you wanted to stop me and comment on anything, please feel free. Or I could just go over the reading and you can comment after, however you'd rather do it. Just don't feel like you can't say something if you need.
All right. Awesome.
So the theme card. So the theme card is the Knight of Cups. And so this one's saying that at least on the podcast front and professionally and all that, you're a bit on a emotional roller coaster with it. It's kind of like ups and downs, and you're really learning how to respond versus react, because right now you're kind of more on the reactive front where things kind of go airy and you might kind of like react emotionally to it. And now you're kind of learning how to balance that out. So that's kind of the starting point, is you're on this emotional roller coaster and you're trying to figure out how to balance your reactions versus responses when things aren't necessarily going the way you want them to go. So that's our starting point.
Nail right on the head.
So looking at your recent past, we have the 8 of Swords. So this is saying that in your recent past, especially in regards to your podcast, you were really struggling with feeling like you didn't know how to move forward. You're feeling like your hands were tied. Like maybe there's only one way forward, but it felt blocked. So you weren't really moving at all. You just kind of felt like, I can't go anywhere. So I'm just stuck and tied up where I'm at, which isn't true. The thing about the Suit of Swords is it's all about the mind. It's all about the narratives and the stories you're telling yourself. And more importantly, it's the perspective. So you were basically struggling with this perspective of I'm trapped, feeling like there's only one way forward or there's no way forward, when there actually was several. It was just you basically getting in your own way. So like with this card, I love to use the analogy. It's like you're trapped in a room and you're trying to break down this door. You're doing everything you can to break down the door. It's not budging, but you find out that you're so focused on the door, you miss the open window that's right next to it. So it's realizing that there are several ways forward, but in your recent past, you really just felt like there was no way forward, and there was some kind of a stagnation around the podcast. which kind of explains that emotional roller coaster. I think now it's kind of trying to get
Yeah.
through those thoughts. Um, and then presently we have the Knight of Wands reversed. So presently, one of the things that looks like that you're really struggling with is it's like owning what you're doing on your podcast, and showing up authentically doing so. So the Knight of Wands upright, it speaks to I'm connected with doing what I love. I'm, you know, what's that saying? Living life to the beat of my own drum. And, I'm living and I'm showing up authentically, even if like other people are looking at me like, that's not what you should be doing. You're doing what you love to do. So right now it's the opposite. You know what you want to do. And I feel like it comes back to whatever has been making you feel trapped. Presently, it's kind of making you like you want to lean more into your podcast, but you're still kind of feeling trapped and almost afraid of showing up as yourself in that vulnerable, authentic way and saying, okay, this is me. I'm doing what I love. I don't care what other people think because I'm really just leaning into what makes me happy and what lights me up. So I feel like that's what you're trying to get to. But there's like thoughts and perceptions of maybe fears around showing up authentically, or maybe feeling like there's something holding you back from stepping into that role. But there is some resistance right now around really feeling like you can do what you want to do with your podcast without the fear of what other people will think.
Yeah. That again, nail on the head.
But I love what's waiting for you in the near future. And like I said, it is always changing. This is just energetically where you're heading right now. But I feel like this is where you're heading because what you're doing right now, even though there's resistance, I feel like there's also a sense of you're working on it. You're trying to overcome it. You're trying not to let those resistance things hold you back from doing what you love. So the near future card is the Sun. And I love this card. This is one of my favorite cards in the deck because it speaks to really just I like to call the Sun the butterfly card. It's like you went from the caterpillar, you went through the cocoon, and then you came out the butterfly. And so I feel like part of what you're going through right now is you're still kind of in the cocoon. You've done some hibernating and changing and evolving, and you're just because of right now, you're just now starting to realize I want to do what I love and I want to do what I love and put myself out there, even though it's kind of scary. I want to just do what lights me up. So you're leaning more towards the butterfly of I want to be authentic. I want to be me. And that's what the Sun speaks to. When you come out as the butterfly, you're really saying, okay, I worked really hard to become this person. These are my really pretty wings, and I'm just going to keep showing them off, even though other people might look at me and be like, what happened to the caterpillar? The caterpillar was just here. I missed the caterpillar. But you're learning how to show up as this new version of you, despite what other people might want you to be and what other people might tell you should be. So I feel like even though there's been, some resistance and feeling like you're trapped, I do feel like you've been working on that perception and you're leaning more towards basically shifting all those ideas and narratives and trusting that you're on the right path, which, by the way, that's another piece of the Sun. It's letting you know that this is where you're supposed to be. This podcast is really very much connected to your authenticity and what you're supposed to be doing. And then the card next to it. So this is the higher self message to the near future. And it's the King of Wands. The King of Wands is like the sky is the limit. It's basically saying that you are carving your own path. And not only that, you're not doing it traditionally. You're basically going off-roading. And that could be kind of scary, especially if you feel like you should be following other people's footsteps, because you might look at other people going, well, they did it this way and they're successful, so maybe I should follow and see what they're doing. No, you are supposed to be off-roading. You're actually one of the people who are blazing a trail for others to follow. So you have to understand that there's a leadership quality of you're doing what you're feeling called to do. You're in your own power. And by doing so, you're also stepping into your own leadership, natural leadership skills, and leaning into the fact that you can create whatever you want from this point on. So, I mean, that's really cool that that's paired up with the Sun. That just tells me that the more you lean into your authenticity and you don't hide who you are at your core, the easier it's going to be to step into the King of Wands role.
Wow. What? It's so accurate. As that, like, we can go from the beginning, but I want to touch on that last part you said about carving your own path. And like I've said that before, it's literally like what we're marketing cannabis, and it's a whole new like that's how this whole podcast, the whole channel, everything started was because the COVID hit. I was a filmmaker, making movies, music videos, and COVID hit, and I had to kind of pivot. And I was going to a dispensary, and I saw what they were doing for advertisement, and I'm like, I could do better than that. And then all of a sudden, we were getting kicked off of Facebook for selling marijuana on Facebook through videos. And then I had to create the blog, for one thing. And then all of a sudden, it just started a community, and then the podcast came, and all this stuff. And you're right, there was no template. Like we're just doing, I'm just going, and seeing like we're figuring it out on the way. So when you said that, I was like, I've literally said that before, like that's kind of what we're doing, and it's hard at times. And the other part that you like really spoke to me was when you were saying like the frustration or whatever. I just had done a podcast right before I jumped on here, and it was a live one. And I had to reboot my computer. I had to do all this stuff right before it. I go on like 4 minutes late, and the first comment I hear is, "It looks blurry to me." And I just, I just get that face, and I end up, working through it. But exactly when you said that, I was just like, what? It just happened minutes ago. So yeah, wow. Like everything in there, it was pinpoint accurate. Wow. I'm impressed.
Well, thank you. There's 2 more cards.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah.
This is the road. These are the roadmap cards. Kind of like, now that you kind of know, like, if this is your placement, where you're headed, where you're at right now, this is kind of like what you can do to make this a successful transition, especially stepping more into your authenticity. So the 2 cards in the middle, we have the Ace of Swords and we have the 3 of Wands. So the Ace of Swords is just kind of taking you back to that 8 of Swords energy of the perception. It's reminding you that your mind is your biggest ally, or it's your biggest enemy, depending on how you use it. So especially when it comes to your podcast, higher self is really saying that you need to watch how you view it, watch the stories you're telling yourself around things, especially when they don't work out the way you want them to. Because you want to make sure that you're leaning more into the positive side. And if things are going wrong, maybe shift it from the perspective of, oh my gosh, this is happening, this is so frustrating, to, okay, this is happening, I wonder why this is happening, I wonder what's going on, and what could make it, like whatever was malfunctioning, maybe there was some kind of a reason it was happening, and leaning more into, okay, well, I wonder why we're malfunctioning today. I guess we're going to find out why, without feeling like, oh my gosh, this is all out of my control and it's all frustrating. You know what I mean? So there's this invitation to really have an open mind when it comes to your podcast, and lean more towards the positive narratives. And if you find yourself in the negative narratives, how can you shift that and not get caught up in the spiral? But the final card is the 3 of Wands. And I feel like this is saying that your podcast is kind of in a transitional period, which makes sense because you're in a transitional period yourself. Like, I feel like you're learning more about how to be more authentic with yourself, but I feel like your podcast is kind of finding its own authenticity as well. And so the 3 of Wands speaks to a transitional period of going from, this is how my podcast has been, to there's this new endeavor that you're kind of leaning more into, but you're like in transition of. So it's like you're leaving behind something, moving towards something else. You're not quite one or the other because you're in transition, but there's definitely some kind of an up leveling or transitional period of, maybe, I don't know, the type of guests you're seeing, or there's some kind of a change, and you're leaning into it, though. You're not fighting it, which is good. So higher self is just really encouraging you to lean in more into that authentic part of you and trust the process, because you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. The Sun and the King of Wands here, that's really just letting you know that you're right where you should be.
Oh, yeah, wow. And it's funny that you say like the transition, because like this podcast is the transition. I do 2 other podcasts that are just me, a 420 and a 710 morning show that's goofy, and we joke and we look at silly texts and whatever, and then the 420 is like about paranormal, true crime. But this podcast is the one that I really want to go the elevated perspective, where it's me, the middle-aged white guy that grew up in small small community, expand my mind and learn about, and and bring other cultures and other experiences to people who might have the same lack of experiences. And yeah, when you said that, I'm like, you're literally part of it right now. Like, this is the transition, like, as we're talking right now, this is it.
Wow. Yeah. So with that said, this is the transition you're actually supposed to be leaning into, because when it comes up like this, it's saying that you're supposed to be leaving these other ones behind and moving into the direction you're going. So in a lot of ways, you're right where you should be. Cool.
Yeah. And there's fear behind it, like you said too. Like, I haven't pushed this as much as I've wanted to, because it's more me being, I guess, the interview, getting stories out, and then the goofy guy laughing at texts in the morning or like whatever we're doing. So yeah, wow, like, I'm working it out as we're talking. But yeah, no, wow, thank you for that. Like, that really, I better get on iTunes and get this thing rolling.
You're welcome. I'm glad that it resonated and gave you gave you some insight that you needed.
Yeah, no, very powerful stuff. And like I said, from the beginning, it was all stuff that, like you said, resonates with you. Like, something I don't advertise. Like, I got frustrated at the podcast today or whatever. And that you were able to, like, it just right off the bat. I was just like, were you watching the show? No, just kidding. um, but no, it's very awesome, and I would urge anyone out there, guys, to hit up the website. The links are in the description below. We're gonna get more into that, but hit the website up, guys. This was super powerful. I do got a couple questions, not to the reading, but about readings overall, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So decks, did they have different decks and different things? Are there difference in different decks, or are there just some that you feel more comfortable with? Is it more of a user, like how you feel, or is it like certain decks do certain things?
So when it comes to tarot, all the decks are pretty much standard. I mean, but the artwork is what's different. So the artwork, the symbology, sometimes the names are a little different of the cards, but it's ultimately all one and the same. I mean, I could pick up any deck and read with it. I could also read with playing cards, which is kind of, a lot of people don't know that playing cards and tarot is actually pretty similar.
Really?
But yeah, I would say, like, yeah. um, Okay, I'll go into a little about that real quick. So,
Nice.
Playing cards has 52 cards in a deck, and it has suits. And so tarot has 78 cards in a deck, but they also have suits. So the difference between tarot and playing cards is tarot has trump cards like the moon, the sun, hermit, etc. Whereas playing cards obviously just have the suits. But the minor arcana of tarot is suits. So you have swords, you have hearts, you have wands, and you have pentacles. And they have the suits ace up to the king and queen. So it's very similar to playing cards in that respect.
Wow, that's super interesting. Yeah, I never realized that before. Wow, that's a fun fact. A fun fact. Okay, one last question. One last question, and we'll kind of sum it up. What is, and I kind of asked this before, but not so much experience for you personally. What is your favorite thing about tarot?
I just love how it can be deep and gentle all at the same time. Like, I love that it can get to the heart of the issue, but it does it in such a gentle way of, like, so when I say medicinal, I like to it's because all cards are medicine. I don't think there's any scary cards. I'm not scared. In fact, I always tell people, don't be scared of the cards. They're all here to help you. And that's what tarot is. It's here to help guide you. It's here to give you that insight. And I mean, some of the cards may be more bittersweet than others, but they're all here to elevate you and to guide you and to, give you a perspective and, like, the bird's eye view of your situation. So you can make better decisions and have that discernment that maybe before using the consulting the cards, you felt lost and really overwhelmed. Whereas the cards allow you to kind of say, okay, this is it. This is what I need to focus on. So I love how it's just there to guide you. And it does it in such a beautiful way with beautiful imagery. So you can't beat that either.
No, definitely not. All right, one more question. I know I said the last one was the last one, but we got one more question. Oh, so say someone's interested. They go to the website. They do all the things they need to do. They book the appointment. What is something you would suggest that they do to prepare themselves before they come in and actually talk to you or to go online or whatever they chose or do the video or the email? Is there like any kind of like breathing technique? Like I had said, I shook off my aura before we did this, so you wouldn't have to deal with any of my garbage bringing in. But is there anything like mentally, maybe a meditation or anything you would suggest?
I mean, yes, a meditation would be amazing. But I would also say you don't necessarily have to do a whole lot. The biggest thing is intention. The biggest thing is what is it that you're looking for. Of course, meditating and sitting with it is always a good idea, just to get clear on what it is you're wanting to know. But beyond that, it's more about intention. And the only other thing that I would say is try to keep the question on yourself. So like if someone comes to me about a relationship, I can look into the other person's perspectives and things like that. But I've learned after doing several of those kinds of readings that it's more powerless to tell you, about someone's, how they're feeling or the whatever, versus giving you the perspective from higher self and what higher self wants you to know, because you can't do anything about what someone else feels, or even if they feel something for you, it doesn't mean they're good for you either. So it's like, it's only one perspective. I always like to focus it more on yourself and have the questions more about you, so that way you can get the most out of it and get the tools and that empowerment to take something from it, where you can't do that if you're asking about somebody else.
No, definitely. And once again, what's the website? Where can they find it? It's going to be down in the description below, guys. Make sure you're clicking away. But where exactly can they find you?
At www.journeythroughtarot.com. That's my website. And then also on Instagram at Journey Through Tarot. I am also on TikTok and Facebook, but really Instagram is where I'm the most interactive, and it's at Journey Through Tarot as well.
Yeah, check out Journey Through Tarot, guys. You saw the reading I got. I mean, all you OGs who've been on the show from day one know. They're like, oh my God. I'm sure they're all like, you nailed it. You nailed it. Very powerful stuff. Great interview too. Thank you so much. This was a blast. I would love to have you back on anytime you want, even if it's just the shoot, or whatever. Whatever, if you come in, I told you we do 3 podcasts a day. Would love just to hang out with you. You're an awesome person. Guys, go over, show some love, click those links below, and please give it up for the mighty and wise Sarah Tye, guys. We'll be back right after this.
All right, guys, that was the very first episode of the Elevated Perspective Podcast. Big shout out to, oh man, what a great guest. Shoot. Sorry, guys. Sorry, froze up. Computer froze up for a minute. Big shout out. Oh, man, guys, show her some love. Make sure you're clicking all the links down in the description, guys. Tremendous. I'm excited to see where this channel goes, what we got cooking. Look at my hair all wacky. You know it's going to be good when the hair is all wacky, guys. All right. Appreciate you. Make sure you're checking out thedailydank.com, guys. That's right. Thedailydank.com, your number one resource for all things cannabis, education, podcasts such as this one, the It's 420 Somewhere podcast, the 7:10 a.m. wakey bakey morning show, guys. You don't want to miss that. We got a whole bunch of cannabis culture. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll have a good time, just like all stoners do, guys. So make sure you're checking that out if that's your thing. Also, the Healing Center, 1400 Needles Highway, Needles, California, your number one cannabis superstore. Guys, don't miss out. They have all the great deals. You're going to save some green on some green. Make sure you go into the channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. If you're on iTunes, Spotify, all those things, guys, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button and all the doodads that you do out there, guys. We're going to clean this up a little bit. This was the first episode. We got a whole bunch more to get into, guys. I'm excited. Thank you so much for tuning in and being part of this. All right, guys, go over to the Elevated Perspective channel. Make sure you're hitting that like button, guys. We drop videos Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Interviews deep down to the dirty. All right, guys, you have a great, great rest of your day. Thanks for hanging in there, guys. It's been real. It's been fun. And it's been real fun. We'll see you guys. Elevated Perspective Podcast. Thank you, guys. Blessings.
Thank you for joining us on the It's 420 Somewhere podcast. Broadcasting worldwide and brought to you by thedailydank.com. Check out our merchandise and amazing content. And follow us on all our social media. Now, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
See you guys.